Yeah, hello to this Cause Underway podcast here. Joined by me, Michael Holland. I'm joined by Chris Kean, his first one on the show, so welcome. Jamie Bowman and Mark Williams. Thanks to our sponsor, GW Services, as always. And we'll put their website at the end of the video, as we always do. I think this is going to be a very somber podcast, but we'll get into it. Just want to talk about the build-up to the game, to be honest. Obviously, at the start, there was a lot of build-up, a lot of great stuff got put out, obviously, by ourselves, and it felt like a really big game. And then, obviously, going on the train, seeing all the people going on trains and coaches, and then everyone in the pub, and then obviously, you seen, obviously, the crowd. It did feel like an amazing day. I mean, what was your thoughts, Jamie, going into, of the whole build-up to the game?
Yeah, it was a great away journey, wasn't it? I mean, people were trying to get there not just by the club coaches, trains and tubes and staying with people they knew and friends and family like I did. And yeah, I think it was a great adventure. And we don't often get the chance to go down south, do we? So
No.
yeah, it just felt like a great adventure getting the tube map out, trying to work out how to get there. Um, and yeah, I just, it felt so positive and exciting. And when I was on the tube, we went right past Wembley, and I remember thinking, "Oh my goodness!" There was just something so exciting about seeing it, and thinking we've got a chance of playing there. So, I mean, it was just a great day out. I know we're all sad. I know we're all feeling it this weekend, but I think we've got to, in the words of Ian Brown, when the Stone Roses split up, with don't be sad that it's over. Be glad that it happened. It's kind of that's kind of how I feel at the moment.
Yeah. And obviously go to you, Mark, as well. Again, just the same question, really. How did you feel about the build up to the game? As it did feel like it felt like obviously the Maxfield was a big game as well, but this felt like a real, like, everything about it felt like a big, massive game, didn't it? In the build up to it.
Yeah, most certainly. I think, as you know, I was away on holiday in Egypt last week, and I was eagerly anticipating the next crescendo way sort of YouTube video with a cast of thousands. It seemed it was fabulous. I was on holiday, so having a fabulous time, and but the nearer it got to Saturday, the more like my focus was on the weekend and what was going to happen, and it really was. I flew in and got home at about 2:30 on the Friday night, Saturday morning. I know a guy had come from Orlando. He'd been on business and
Yeah.
flown in and stuff. So it really was trains, planes, and automobiles, you know. And it was only when I sort of got on the train on Saturday morning to London, I realised I didn't have a Scooby Doo I was going to get from Euston to the ground. I really didn't. I'd asked for a little bit of help during the week, but I hadn't taken any of it in because I was that excited.
Yeah.
And as Jamie said, I went past Wembley twice, once on the way into Euston on Saturday before the game, and once on the way out to Euston on the way to the game. And, you know, you, it was almost surreal, you know, and it was quite difficult to sort of get there. You think you're going to London, you're not really. You're going, as far out to London as us going to probably play Curzon, I would think, miles wise. So it's a fair trip back out again. So, fair play to absolutely every single person who went there by whatever means. And, Jamie said there was people there who lived down south. It must be fabulous for them to come and see, the hometown club or a club they've got an affiliation to, sort of relatively locally. I just thought the whole day, apart from the result, obviously, but it was fabulous. It really was. There's people that I've not seen for years and years and years. And even in the pub, there's people that I know they go to the game that I've probably never spoken to before. But in the pub, everybody was speaking to each other. It was a real sense of sort of a camaraderie without being overly schmaltzy and stuff. But I just thought it was, bar the result, it just shows you where Marine have gone to with a fan base. We've got a proper fan base now. We really have, a real proper loyal fan base who are not idiots,
Yeah.
and most of them have probably been brought up watching Everton, Liverpool, proper Prem. But, and to think about Scousers, although not every single person in the fan base is a Scouser, is we don't suffer fools. We see through people, and if we didn't think we were getting, bang for our buck, if you like, we wouldn't go, but
Yeah.
we do, and we constantly do. I just thought it was great. Lucky, I really did, honestly. I thought it was a great day, bar the result, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I'll go to you, Chris. I mean, as I said, what you think, what the build up? I know you put a really nice tweet about us last night, which I really appreciated when I seen that. Yeah, just on the whole day, like before the game, obviously.
Yeah, from the moment the file game was called off, that was it. It was building and everything was on, and you guys with the podcasts that you put out, the interviews, it was non-stop. It was just constant build. Every day I'm getting messages from my nephew Caleb. There's another podcast out. We're doing something else, messaging me about plans. You're so excited. And then you get to the day and you're meeting up with people at your train station. You're picking more people up on the train going down. It was something we don't get to experience a lot as Marine fans. I've had it once or twice when I was going away with Liverpool and whatnot. But just for Marine, days like that, they don't happen often. And the build up to it was just made everything so exciting. Every day was great. The pub was fantastic. Meeting up there, getting to speak to people you only really speak to on social media these days, and then you're there face to face. But I suppose after 4:45, it all changed, didn't it?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I just want to obviously if we go into the game now. I'll just say my thoughts on the game. I mean, it's an absolute sickener, isn't it? I don't think it's probably the worst way to lose. I think possibly. And I really feel sorry for the players, to be honest, more than myself than the fans in a way, because they've worked so hard to get there, and just to have that ripped away like that, it really was horrible. I think on the game, I thought we played well. I thought, tactically we got it spot on, in my opinion. With the players we had, we were never going to be able to go toe for toe football and wise with Wealdstone. But I thought, we played on the counter. We had moments, and I thought we played well. And I think on another day, I actually think we had the better chances. I mean, I think both teams had chances, but I think we had some good chances there. And I think if we score first goal, we win the game, isn't it? And unfortunately, it's the worst place. I think the goal be, and as I said, I'm not going to dissect the goal because I don't want to kick the players or kick anyone. I think they'll be very disappointed with the goal. Do you know what I mean? But I think that's something obviously they'll speak about, internal. But go to you, Jamie. What did you think about the old goal game, really?
Yeah, so I think I think first half played really well. I think it reminded me a bit of the Woking game where we were playing a team that kept possession, knocked it about quite well, but we looked aggressive. We were winning the ball quite well in midfield. I thought we looked dangerous on the break, and I thought, as you say, I think the tactics were pretty spot on. I don't think we could have matched them for the way they were playing. They weren't doing a lot with it, they were doing passing it around the back, keeping possession well, and I thought we looked dangerous on the break. And when they did threaten, I thought Josh Warder was just immense at the back. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. My dad, who obviously doesn't come to see Marine very much. He lives down south. He said to me that guy you've got at the back, he's stopping everything. It's funny when you hear an outsider, isn't it?
Yeah.
You don't appreciate what you got sometimes, and he was. I thought he was great, and McIntyre was superb, much better than I think a lot of people feared. Maybe feared the worst when he was. It was clear he was going to be our keeper, but I think he did a brilliant job, commanded his box really well, and didn't really put a foot wrong until the end goal. But I think second half, I think they clearly came out. They'd had a bit of a rocket, hadn't they? They came out. I think they came out a bit of a different team second half. They were keeping possession, but they were doing something positive with it. And I thought they really dominated second half. We looked second best, I think, for most of the second half. I know we had chances. I know we had that one that pinballed around the box, and we had a couple of shots, but I think majority they had the possession and they looked good and they were doing something with it, and I think it was backs to the wall for quite a bit of it, but the tactics were good. My thing again, and I think it was really obvious, was it was fitness. It was stamina. I think we looked knackered at the end. George Newell could hardly walk. I think Hazelhurst was obviously still, injured. I think we just looked shattered in that second half, and it's no surprise really. When you think of the injuries we've had, the games we've had. I mean, God knows what we'd have been like if we'd played that game against Fylde on Tuesday. Probably would have been even more tired. But I think they gave a great account of themselves. The goal, it's one of them, isn't it? I mean, it was the only time the goalie, I think, kicked the ball down the pitch all game, didn't he? Every other time he passed it, he rolled it out or kicked it to centre back. It was the one time, and the one time he did, it was an absolutely brilliant kick. It was straight down the middle, as direct as he can go. And to be fair to the lad, it was an absolutely brilliant finish when you watch it. He really, really. I mean, you can argue it shouldn't have bounced over the central defender's head, but it was a brilliant finish, and I don't really blame McIntyre for where he was standing for that. I think he's anticipating the ball coming to him, and as soon if he'd held it, I'm pretty sure the whistle would have gone after that. So yeah, it was incredibly cruel. I think for a split second, their concentration probably went down. Maybe they could have kept the ball earlier and thought penalties isn't a bad thing at this time, rather than kick the ball into the area where the goalie grabbed it. Maybe they could have gone into the corner. But it's ifs, buts, and maybes. I think they can hold their heads up high, and I think considering he was a very young manager against a very experienced manager and footballer at the highest level, I think Bobby did an exceptional job. I think the substitutes worked; they made a difference, and I think his tactics were spot on again. And we easily could have nicked it. We were very, very close in a very evenly matched game.
Yeah. And yeah, I agree with that. I got with you, Mark, but I do agree with that. Second half, I think they did come out better. I still felt we kept them at arm's length, and but they was the better team, and it did feel like we was hanging on a little bit. But we had chances on the counter attack, didn't we? And obviously Harry Hubie, when he came on, I thought he was absolutely outstanding.
Yeah.
But what do you think, obviously, on the game, Mark?
Yeah, I agree with you about Harry Hubie, Mucky. He, he's really sort of grown in my estimation over the last couple of games when he started and he's played. And there was that one run in the second half. Honestly, he just sort of danced past people. Imagine to be a 16-year-old playing in a semi-final to get to Wembley. Imagine what you must feel like.
Yeah.
We can only imagine, can't we? As to the game in a whole, to be honest with you, I couldn't really see a great deal. The old ground, it's a bit like at Marines ground. When it's full, unless you're at the front, it's difficult to see a lot of the game. It really is. What I did see, they were a typical sort of conference side. They knock it round, but did they go anywhere? Did they do anything? Not really.
But that knackered us out, didn't it, Mark? I think.
Yeah,
I think we were chasing in the second half.
You're probably right,
well.
Jamie. You're probably correct. But to me, it, it's a tactic. Then maybe they said that knock it round, we'll tire them out. They certainly come out first sort of 10 minutes, second half, and I was a bit like, they get one or two here, it could be three or four, but they didn't. And then, it was the most direct long ball, as you said, that they've not done all game. And it's hard to be critical because, as you say, the lads were dead on the legs. We were all preparing for penalties, and I'm sure they were too. Certainly, I've watched it back a few times now on the full highlights and on different fans, clips and stuff. I'm not going to criticise Jack McIntyre at all. During the game, from what I could see, I was a bit like, I was not going in from there. It was a fabulous finish. Sir Barry Lenton pointed out that he was the guy to fear, wasn't he? During the game, he didn't do a great deal, but what a great finish. In the 94th minute of 95, to come up with that and do that, that's a sublime finish at any level of football. It really is. Because, they are part-time, full-time, whatever they are, and all that argument. Um, to do that after 94 minutes, that's a talent. That's because they're as tired as not quite as tired as we may be, but it was a grueling game, wasn't it, for both sides really, because there was no quarter asked or given. I'm sure we'll go on to discuss the other point of the game, which is probably the officiating and the penalty that should have been that never was.
Yeah. And obviously, Chris, you've heard obviously both guys' points there. I think Wealdstone were really worried, and the reason that big sell, obviously you're always going to celebrate like that, but they would have been relieved not to go to penalties. I mean, what was your opinion on the game, really?
Yeah, I think so. First half, I agree with the lads. We were on top. I thought they were nervous. They were passing it around, but they were scared to make the pass, the killer pass. I thought we had the better chances. Second half, obviously Gary got into them, and they came out. They were fast. They were getting the ball forward. They put us under pressure. But I think we coped well. We were physical. We kept them at bay. Made a couple of saves, but I didn't think they threatened us too much to be worried about. I thought it was an even game. And when you get into the end, you're on your last legs. We've tried to counter attack. They've quickly countered us, and then that's it. You're on the back foot. It's bounced over the head. There's not really much you can do about it. It happens. It's the timing of it, isn't it? You've got no chance to respond, no chance to regroup. I did think Harry Hooby was worth shouting out. I thought that was a good substitution, bringing him on half an hour ago. I think he gave us impotence going forward. He was on the front foot constantly. He was always looking, always taking his man on. It's something we've lacked a bit this season with all the injuries that we've had. So I think that was a good substitution that he made. Maybe could have brought James Potter on a little bit earlier. Yeah, it's a but some maybes though, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, Mark touched on it, so we may as well get into it. And I want to say this, we'll get into it. Listen, congratulations to Wealdstone. I think in a way they're very similar to us, really, aren't they? Obviously, they're like a hybrid full time, but they're very similar. I think they're very similar clubs. If you look at the history of both clubs, they're very similar. I mean, I've looked at the penalty. I seen it from where I was standing. I was 30, 40 yards away. I've heard Wealdstone fans say they're 100 yards away and say it was a penalty. He's 6 yards away, and when you see it, it's just incredible. I mean, I'll go with you, Jane, because I think you'll give a balance view on this, but
I won't.
balance view than I will, to be honest, because I'm still raging about it now. But what did you think about it, really?
Well, I was standing next to my dad, and so I had to watch my language a bit, and I had my little boy with me as well. But when the tackle went in, I couldn't. My first instinct was I couldn't believe it was a foul. I didn't really realize it was actually in the area. I thought it was outside the area. So I mean, I was just gobsmacked because I think you could even hear his studs on him. It was so obviously a foul. And when it was absolutely sickening on the way home, seeing people's videos of the fact that he was in the area. I just couldn't believe it. And as you say, the referee was so near. It just seemed a bizarre decision. He was nowhere near the ball. It was just frustrating because I thought Finn, when he did run at the defence, he was really causing them problems. It was we needed to get the ball to him a bit more.
Yeah.
But when he did get the ball and we did break, he did his usual, didn't he? He nearly always got round the first man, got a shot away or got a pass away, and it was just so frustrating that when he did go on a run like that, we didn't get the penalty it deserved. I mean, I thought the referee was poor all game. I thought he was far too fussy. I felt every sort of slight bit of physicality got penalised. I mean, poor George Newell, he was up against a big central defender, but every time he backed into him just to sort of gain some ground or was behind him, he blew up. He didn't win anything. I think he got booked in the end, didn't he, as well? It was I thought it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I actually thought he protected both keepers a bit too much as well. He blew up every time there was a cross for both sides. he was just one of them refs. He was just incredibly fussy. And as Mark was saying, no quarter was given in that game. There were some strong tackles in, but it wasn't a dirty game. I didn't think it was just a hard, competitive, non-league battle that needed a referee who understood that and let the game flow a bit more. But he just seemed to blow up for every time there was a physical challenge. So and I suppose the cherry on the top of all that was the penalty. So yeah, it was a sickener because I would have been very confident if we'd scored that.
Yeah.
We could have held on. I think the way we were defending, the way we were set up to play, I would have been really confident we'd have seen that out. So yeah, it was a sickener. It only adds to the heartbreak, doesn't it? Really.
I mean, I agree with you, Jamie. Actually, I thought it was outside the box. I didn't realise it was in the box till seeing the
You
video.
were standing quite near me, I think, weren't
Yeah,
you?
yeah. So but you could see it was a foul. I did think it was outside. I didn't realise it was inside the box. He seen all that, Mark. I mean, has he bottled it? Because I'm not saying he's cheated anything. I think he's the same referee at Tamworth. Thought he's poor there. I think if that's at the other end, I'm 99% sure he gives the penalties for Wealdstone. I mean, what did you think on it, really?
I just thought he was generally poor. I'd probably disagree with Jamie a little bit about him being pussy. I don't think he gave enough at times. I think there was some stuff going on and people getting held and pushed and stuff. Um, I don't understand why we have an EFL referee,
Yeah.
Officiating in a semi-final. Surely, if you want to encourage people to take up refereeing and stuff, do you not reward the referees that referee every single week in the Conference North, the Conference South, and give them the games? Albeit, I'm going to contradict myself now, they've been pretty poor. I think the standard of officiating is not good. It's not good at all. But I think you should reward the guys who do it every single week and give them the semi-final and give them the final.
And they'd know the players, wouldn't they? They'd know the players.
Yeah, exactly.
They'd know
I think
how
so.
non-league
I think
teams
so.
play. Yeah.
There was a decision within about 2 or 3 minutes where a ball went out and nobody was quite sure. It was a throw-in. And the linesman wouldn't commit himself, was waiting for the referee to give the decision. What are they there for? He was stood about 3 yards away from where it went out. He knew full well it would come off last, but wouldn't give the decision. He's waiting for his mate to. Honestly, it baffles me. It baffles me. The penalty was unbelievable. You're never going to see a more stonewall penalty than that. You're just not. Whatever way, if they had VAR and they dissected it on 15 different angles, 15 different angles would give that as a penalty all day long. All day long. And I agree with Jamie. I think if we'd got the penalty, Finn had probably stepped up and scored, and I think we would have held on. But as you say, Chris said, it's all ifs, buts, ands, and maybes, isn't it? That's football.
It quite made me laugh, actually, because a Wealdstone fans mentioned about how, obviously, that moment, he was glad VAR because, obviously, you have all that moment, and then someone said, I'm not surprised you was glad of it with that decision, isn't it? I get his point about the VAR, but, as I said, it was such a bad decision. I mean, what did you think about it, Chris, basically?
I mean, like everyone, I thought it was outside the box. I didn't realise it was in the box, and I thought that's why he hasn't made the call. Because he doesn't know whether it's in the box, whether it's out the box. And I thought maybe he's just let it go. But when you see it back, there's no excuse. He's right there. Nobody on the pitch has a better view of it than the referee, and he's just bottled it. He's just not made the decision. But the other two lads, they're having opposite complaints almost about him. Just shows how poor a game he had. It's like he didn't get anything right.
You're right. You're right.
It's like when he should have given something, he didn't give it. When he shouldn't give something, he was giving it. It was always the wrong. Mates always joke at the home games, I shout referee more than anyone. You can hear me screaming at just referee all the time. And I didn't even bother at the second half. It was just there's no point shouting at this referee. He's in a world of his own.
Yeah.
And it was exactly the same at Tamworth. I came away thinking we were lucky he didn't do anything stupid. and then he's done something stupid there, hasn't he?
Well, I think if you look back in the highlights as well, straight after that penalty, non-penalty he's given, literally 20 seconds later, he gives a foul to them for which just looks absolutely nothing in it.
Yeah.
And you just sit there thinking, how have you seen that and then just missed that down the other end? It just baffles me. But it weren't just a penalty for me. I thought he was poor around, and but I just don't understand. I said I haven't seen one comment where someone sat there and said that shouldn't be a pen, and that's their fans as well. That's not just ours.
Yeah.
I've even seen the comments on their forum about they was down near the end and they thought it was a penalty, and you're just like, how can he say if I'm because they're obviously going to be biased, aren't they?
Even Robbie Savage thought it was a penalty.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah. It's crazy. I mean,
and he doesn't like Marine.
no. I think that's because some Marine fans got his numbers somehow after the playoff final, and they were all ringing him after the playoff final, weren't they? So I don't think he was too pleased. But yeah, that's what I mean. And I think that adds more to the wound, doesn't it? You know, obviously losing it like that. But as you've all said, I think if we would have got in front, I'd have backed us to win that game, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, Finn doesn't miss. He puts that away. Even if they do get the game, even if they do get the goal at the end of the game in the same way, then it's 1-1. I back us on penalties every day. I don't think there's anyone better on penalties than us. I think we've lost, what was it, 1 in 10 we've lost? Something like that. So it's just at the time as well, that game, didn't realise how big a turning point it was going to be not giving that for us.
Yeah. A little weird on I'll go with all three of you. Like I got Jamie obviously weird on supporters, obviously I know we touched on it slightly there, but obviously a weird on him, like 600 fans. I mean, you'll know better than me. You know, we used to see less than 300 at our home game. It's actually surreal for me, really, because I remember going to the Farsley game when we got relegated, and there was about 30 people there, and you see 600 people going to London. I mean, it made me proud, to be honest, and I was buzzing with it. I mean, what did you think on it, really?
No, totally, Mucky, and that's what's got to keep you going in these dark times. You know, you got to have a sense of pride, and yeah, I was very proud, and like Mark said, you know, the camaraderie. I chatted to lads I've seen and people at the game who I've never spoken to before, and it felt special, didn't it? I was chatting to them in the pub, I was chatting to them on the way to the ground, chatting to them in the ground. You know, I thought it was great. I thought that was great the way they set the bar up in the field beforehand as well.
Yeah.
You know, I had a quick drink in there. Actually chatted to a former captain of Wealdstone who led them to the FA Trophy in the 80s.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, he was great. He was saying what a great club Marine was, and you know, he remembered what a strong club they were in the 90s. He was great. It was just one of those days that made you really proud to not just be a Marine fan, but be a fan of non-league. I thought as well. You know, it was the very fact it was their record attendance as well. I'm sure it probably would have been ours, wouldn't it? You know, well, certainly for the last few years anyway. It felt very special. I got to go with my dad and my son, so there was, you know, 3 generations of us there. And I'm sure there are other people like that. And it's those moments you've got to kind of cherish as a football fan, even when the result goes against you. You know, they don't happen very often. And you know, when you take a deep breath and you think back on it, and you know that's what keeps you going through the dark times, isn't it? You know, it's why you're a football supporter, isn't it? You've got to swallow these moments and think of the good times. And you know, for 94 minutes, it was a good time. You know, we can't forget that. It was an absolute thriller and an amazing opportunity that we were there, and an incredible achievement. So, no, fair play to the Marine fans. And the other thing, the noise was brilliant, wasn't it? Just didn't stop singing. I mean, they were really quiet. I thought, you know, they only started singing really in the second half, and even then, not much. And I just thought, the noise we made was just continuous, and it wasn't abusive. It was getting behind our team, wasn't it? It was, you know, there wasn't any any chance about London or Southerners or anything like that. It was all behind our team. So no, it was great. It was a great positive day. As I say, Mucky, keep those moments. They're the ones that get you through the dark times.
Oh, definitely. And it's like, it's as you know, I've only been started taking my little lad, and this season really, and he went to Tamworth, and he loved it. He loved it. Do you know what I mean? And he's seen his face at the end. He was devastated. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because he really thought we were going to win. I mean, and they said he was just like proper zoned in the game, I'm just talking about my lad because there's so many young supporters there, weren't there? There was just mine. It was just brilliant to see how many youngsters were there, and just the
we
fans.
were we were standing behind probably the youngest. I think it was Josh Wardle's baby
Ah, right, okay, yeah.
was right at the front in a pram, fast asleep. It was extraordinary. His partner was there, sort of rocking the pram.
Yeah,
It was extraordinary. The tiny little baby. But
yeah,
he came. It was very poignant actually. He came over at the end and said, "Could he cuddle the baby and take? I don't know if it was a boy or girl. Take it out on the pitch."
yeah,
And she was like, "No, it's asleep. You go back." But it was, and he looked devastated. He obviously wanted to hug his kid, but it was a lovely moment. But yeah, there were loads of kids there, weren't there? And
yeah.
loads, all ages. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it's weird on with you, Mark, just on the fans, really. I mean, I think you touched on it, and I think we know that there's one that came all the way from Florida, isn't it? That dad actually, got a flight to make sure he got there. I mean, it was an incredible effort, and as Jamie says, the noise was absolutely brilliant. And what I really liked about us as well, a lot of nonsense at the end of the game with their fans. And I get it, the one, and with youngsters, you always get that, don't you? They want to go with the fans, but our fans didn't react, and our fans give the players an absolute unbelievable send off, didn't they? Do you know what I mean? I mean, how proud was you of the fans on Saturday?
It was funny. So I was a bit later than everybody else going from Liverpool to Euston because as they've been away and stuff. And I was just getting into Euston and I was watching the train going out of Euston. And there was three or four, five or six people with black and white scarves on. And I just, my brain didn't compute. So I was just looking. And I went on the fixtures and I was trying to think of who's black and white that's playing London today that, going out on the train. And then I realised it was Marine fans. That's like surreal. It's happened a few times recently. I work in the centre of Liverpool, and I'm walking across Exchange Flags of a morning, and quite often now I'm seeing people in Marine bobble hats.
Yeah,
It's really sort of taken off. It
Mm.
really is. The fans on Saturday I thought were amazing. I'm usually quite reserved. But the week before I went away on holiday. I'm near 60, and I found myself making a flag. That's how much I've sort of got caught up in the whole thing. And I sung in the pub on Saturday, which is the first time ever. I don't sing at the match. It's just not my thing. But I sung in the pub. I sung at the match, and maybe I am for changing. At nearly 60, I'm getting caught up in the whole thing. I just think it's absolutely amazing. The support. I was sort of behind the group going. It was quite difficult to get out of Euston to get to the game on Saturday. It shouldn't have been if it wasn't for planned engineering works. It would have been a straight route, but it wasn't, and it was quite difficult. Whatever way you went, it was difficult. And I was following the group, and it was a guy I've seen at Marina quite a few times. Don't know his name, but we sort of let on and say hello. But he had a group he had two or three kids with him and two or three older guys. And when I say older guys, probably in their late 60s, early 70s. And there was a bit of a walk between stations. It was up and down, overground, underground. Not wobbling free, but it was, it was quite difficult. But they got there and enjoyed it. It's honestly absolutely amazing. It really is. It's just, you know, I've been going since probably 74, 75, and 250 become 350. Then it stayed at 350 for years and years and years. And to see it now, it honestly, all power to everybody that got there on Saturday, because I know for myself it was an expensive do, but I'd do it again next Saturday. I would.
Yeah. Well, you got Southport on Friday anyway, so a little bit of a shorter one. And I was quite thinking, I was actually thinking before that Southport game's coming at a good time, I think, because I just feel like, it's going to be a big game, a big Marine crowd, and the fans can really give the players, because obviously with their fans coming on, it was kind of rushed, wasn't it? The players, like obviously clapped us and all that, but, they have to kind of go then because there's obviously, the pitching's prediction. But obviously with you, Chris, I mean, what did you think of the fans really on Saturday?
I love seeing it like that. That's what we want to see more of. We need and hopefully on the back of this, that's how we can build, getting more fans going away, even more fans home. I went with people who'd never come to match, maybe once or twice a year, and they were coming to that game. So let's hope they keep coming back, because that's how you grow. That's how you grow. And if we're going to move into this new stadium, that's how we're going to fill it. But I was really taken aback by the pub. I mean, I thought it was ridiculous when we got told we were getting a designated pub. I was like, we're not Everton going down to London, but we've got it. I thought it worked really well, just getting everyone in one location to meet up and then walk down to the ground. The atmosphere in the pub was fantastic. Everyone was buzzing, singing. Everyone stopping to say hello to everyone. I did like what they did with the fan zone. I mean, I was only there for about 10, 15 minutes, but I was speaking to a lot of their fans around, and they were all nervous. They were happy to be playing Marine because they're similar clubs in the fact that they've come up through the divisions. They're not full-time. They're not big money backers or anything like that. So they were happy to play a team like that. And they were all good lads. I want to make a shout out to their stewards. I thought they were excellent, hands off, very friendly.
Yeah, they were.
Looked after us all. You go to teams like that sometimes, you get heavy duty stewards, but I thought they were really great.
Yeah, good
I
point.
agree.
Yeah.
One thing about the fans, Mucky, I got chatting to a couple of Spurs fans who come to watch us, and said they, from the FA Cup tie.
Right,
And I mean, I didn't know if that was. I mean, I'd heard, but obviously I know they gave us money. Both of them told us that they bought a ticket for the FA Cup game, so their names will be on that wall. And they said, obviously there were no Premier League games that day. They decided to come down and support us. And they were lovely, they were just like, oh, we always look out for your result now. I couldn't believe that. I spoke to another couple of lads who were students from Liverpool who were at university in London. This was their first Marine game, but they decided they wanted to come and support Marine to that day. It's like Mark says, things like this start snowballing, don't you? You just see all of a sudden people want to get involved and get behind it, and experience it.
Yeah,
it's great. And I know their fans, some of their young fans were there's one lad in a balaclava, isn't there, in the pictures? It's like,
not a very good one.
Flipping heck. It's like, I mean, but I'm sure some of our young lads would have been a bit like that as well.
Of course,
you expect it. But what really struck me was when I was walking out the ground with my dad, and my dad was on a walking stick, so we couldn't walk very quickly. He's going to hate me for saying that on the podcast. And my lad was obviously like yours, was quite crestfallen. And a couple of older fans, came up to us, shook our hands, and said, "What a brilliant account we gave of ourselves." One best support they'd ever seen. How unlucky we were. Shook our hands and said, "What a great game, what a great day," and wished us well. And that happened about 2 or 3 times on the way to the tube station.
Yeah.
And I it's little things like that, isn't it? That all you do is nod and think, But they went. They one of them crossed the road to do that.
Yeah.
Actually crossed the road to shake her hands. So fair enough. I think there was some it was a good day for non-league football.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm glad you pointed that out, to be honest, because as I said, I don't want to. Obviously, we've had the discussion of the penalty, and I don't want to come across bitter or anything like that. Listen, it's not their fault. The ref never gave a decision, and he took advantage of it. But I do agree. I thought generally most their fans were brilliant with us. I think they've been brilliant online. It's no consolation to us because we've lost the way we have, but the amount of tweets and comments they've give, I know our group, and obviously we retweet them and all that, and they've given us loads of praise and all that. And I said it's hard to it's hard to take it in because obviously how we've lost the game, isn't it? But I think it was a really good day, wasn't it? As you said, a really good day for non-league, and I've got a lot of respect for them as a club. To be honest, they've their fans are quite good, to be fair. As I said, I think with obviously when you get 4,000 fans, you're always going to get a minority who play up. I mean, it's just the way it is, isn't it? But in the main, I think their fans were brilliant, really, with us, weren't they?
Well, yeah, apart from that one group who had the misfortune of following to the tube station after the game as well, but I thought they were all fantastic, and every one of them was delighted that we'd come down in the way we had. We brought numbers, we were singing, we were supporting properly, everyone was friendly. So I don't think they knew what to expect because I suppose you don't get crowds that often in non-league really at any level. There's only really Berry travelling that numbers, probably Scunthorpe travelling those numbers. Not many teams travel with that sort of fans, so it was probably a bit of a rare occasion for them as well. But I thought it was great great advert for Marine. I think you're going to see teams wanting to play us in the future, knowing that we're going to bring numbers like that. We're going to support in the way that it's not going to be a hassle for them to have to deal with those number of fans. So I think it's only a good thing for the club and us as supporters going forward.
Yeah, I want to touch on Wealdstone actually. I wasn't actually going to ask this, but now we spoke about it. Do you think they're like the blueprint, really? Like, because as we've said, they're very similar to Marine, aren't they? And they've gone into like this hybrid level, and not far off full time. And I mean, obviously, we're going to be waiting until we move grounds and hopefully get a bit of investments. And I think they're kind of a blueprint what we want to be in the future. Do you know what I mean? Because I think they're getting their own ground. Do you think there's a lot of similarities between the two clubs, Jamie?
Yeah, maybe. I know similar histories, isn't it? Similar kind of and that suburb. It felt like almost similar to Crosby in a way, didn't it? Walking through those suburbs like that from the from the high street. I remember thinking it's not that far off from where we go to the ground, really. But yeah, I mean, they clearly need a new ground as well. I mean, I was quite shocked actually at how bad the ground was in a way. We might only have three sides, but I'm glad we've got our ground rather than theirs. I thought it was pretty. It was held together by scaffolding, wasn't it? And a bit of gaffer tape, and the toilets were horrendous at our end. I mean, they obviously couldn't cope with games like that every week, I don't think. And
Yeah,
but to be fair, neither could we probably.
yeah,
So yeah, it did feel like two teams that could be, who knows, we could be playing them again in the
yeah.
not too distant future. That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Well,
But no, I've got apart from a few young idiots, everyone I met was a class act. As I
okay, yeah.
say, and I've got absolutely no issue, and good luck to them in the final. I think I think they'll go in as the underdog probably, won't they?
Yeah.
And the smaller support on the day, but good luck to them. Fair enough.
Yeah. Going to the next thing, really. Obviously, it's a devastating way to lose. We've touched on it. I'm absolutely gutted for the players. I know we all are, really, because I think that's a tough one to get over, and especially when you got a game tomorrow, feels even worse. I'm not even sure how they can focus on that game. But I mean, how do the players respond, Mark, after that devastating defeat? And then I think we've got what, 4 games in the space of 6 days. I mean, it's going to be really difficult for them to get over that. And do you think playing that amount of games is actually going to help them, get out the system kind of thing?
Yeah, I think there's a big adage, isn't it? You fall off the bike, get back on pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Um, So, massive opportunity, now that what's been has gone, and I think it's a fabulous game on Friday. It
Yeah.
really is a fabulous game, and I'm sure there'll be hordes again of Marine there. I know they've got like tomorrow night and stuff, but I wouldn't put it past them to go out and do something tomorrow night. I really wouldn't.
No. I was thinking that
Do,
today.
do you know what I mean? It's just Marine, isn't it? It's a Bobby Grant team. It's the way they are to go. We'll show you. Um, so tomorrow maybe is a bit of a free hit. I think after that Friday, again, I think there'll be tons of Mariners on Friday, all behind them as per. And looking at the games, it's not beyond the realms of possibility. It really isn't. Is
No.
it too soon? We've said this before. It may be. Do you know what I mean? But what an end to the season to get anywhere near a sniff of the playoffs and an FA Trophy semi-final.
Yeah.
Absolutely unbelievable. Unbelievable. Do with the squad stretched but so many positives have come out of the season. The two kids from the youth setup, both, Harry and James Potter, amazing. A massive plus of the last 2 or 3 weeks to me has been Jack McCauley. At first I thought we're going to miss Fraser. Yeah, Fraser's amazing and has done so well for us. Did we miss him on Saturday? No, because Jack was, he was unbelievable when he pulled off 2 or 3 absolute top draw saves. And he seems to have calmed down a little bit now. He's getting a run of games. I think he was just anxious to get in. So when he came in first off early on in the season, I think he was a bit, rabbit caught in the headlight sort of thing. And the other thing is he's good at the old SHIT housery, isn't he?
Yeah.
He is. Let's be honest. He's good at that, and there's always a place for that in my book of football.
Oh, definitely.
Will Fraser be back in contention this week? Will he, or is he away for a while?
I'm not too sure. I think they were playing Monday. They were actually playing Monday against Latvia, if I'm not mistaken. So you'd think. I mean, maybe
bar an injury, he'll be back for the weekend. So that is
back for Friday. Yeah.
A decision for tomorrow night, I guess.
Yeah. It's a big decision, isn't it, though, isn't it? Because as you said, I mean, I got told, I don't know who it is, I got told that he was inconsolable after, on the coach room, and he should be really proud of his performance, to be honest. I think since he's come in, he's been really good, and as you said, he made numerous saves. I mean, I'll go to you, Chris. I mean, yeah, how do you respond, and do you expect them to respond? And basically, what we all really feel is a Bobby Grant team, and we, like Mark said, it'll be like, come on, let's have a go again now, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? I think the mentality of this squad, I don't think it's going to wallow in self-pity. I think it's going to go the other way. Is that something you feel?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to start on Jack, I said in the build-up to the game, I've got absolute confidence in Jack as our starting goalkeeper. I think he's been a bit unlucky that he's come in and then we've been able to get this fantastic goalkeeper Fraser on loan from Everton and he's had to sit on the bench a bit. But I've got no worries about throwing Jack in. I think he's a quality goalkeeper at this level. Well, yeah, I think Mark said it right, really. Tomorrow's kind of a free hit for us. It's a game that wasn't planned. It's been pushed back because there was tremendous rain last Tuesday. And it's just a case of, tough luck, just get out there and get it done, don't you? And that's kind of where Marine excel. I've said a few times this season, when we're rested and we're planning, we never seem to be as good as when we just go and bang, 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 game after game after game. I think we're always a little bit better when it's like that. So maybe it's a good time for us to play Filed away. And then we've got Friday's the big one, isn't it? It's both teams have lost in the semi-final. Both sets of supporters are hurting. And I think it's exactly what we need. Local rivalry where we can both get it out of our systems. I think it'll be some good some good-hearted banter between the two clubs, and it's good that neither one of us is ahead of one of them going to the final for that game.
I'll go with you, Jamie. I mean, I'm not too sure how I'll cope if we get beat by Southport and then lose a semi-final. I don't think it can get much worse, to be honest. But how do you expect the players to respond? Because obviously that was a devastating victory for them, which we all agree on, really. Again, I think they'll go. I don't think they'll go under. I really don't believe that. Is that something you believe, really?
I think it will be hard. I mean, I just think mentally they're going to be exhausted as well. I mean, physically and mentally. It's where Bobby earns his corn, isn't it? He's going to have to raise them again for Tuesday. I tend to agree on the free hit thing you talk about. I wouldn't be surprised if they lost tomorrow night, and they could lose heavily. But I almost think, fair enough. It's almost like I wouldn't just get that game done, and let's think about Friday. I feel like Bobby needs to be saying to them, Friday's your cup final now, isn't it? Think about that. You've got another massive game on Friday with a big crowd. It's like Saturday all over again. Just make sure you get the result this time. See it out. Just anything you did wrong in that game, you can amend in this game. It's a great opportunity. Managers love speaking like that, don't they? They always say it's a great way to get out your system. You want to keep playing. I don't know how much of that is right because I think players do like a rest.
Yeah.
Managers probably do as well and want the time to prepare. But yeah, I think let's get Tuesday out of the way. If we can nick something up there, fantastic. But I certainly wouldn't blame them if they're a bit spent mentally and physically on Tuesday. And let's really think about Friday because I think the third place playoff game is important, isn't it? On Friday, that's what it feels. That's what it feels like. And as you say, I mean they'll be hurting as well, won't they? Southport exactly the same. They took the lead. They were winning at half time, weren't they? It's going to be tough for them to cope with as well. We're going to be it's going to be an interesting game Friday. Which set of supporters and which set of players can get over it the quick?
Yeah,
it's
I
derby, isn't it?
I think I've seen it's sweet actually from because we have sometimes a bit of banter with the Southport fans on Twitter and they want them to describe it as El Depressico.
Yeah. That's very good.
Which kind of, I messaged him and went, you know what, you've actually made me laugh there. I need to cheer it up.
That's very good.
So yeah, very, very good. I give them a due on that. I'll just touch on the game. Obviously, like the dynamics before we finish. Do you feel like, because I do feel like, listen, fair play to Matty McDonald and Jack Hazelhurst, but they gave you a shot. They played 70, 60 minutes respectively, and they worked hard. But do you feel like, along with the cup tie players, the players injured, and probably Matty McDonald and Hazelhurst probably not being match fit, do you think that ultimately was, our downfall in terms of like trying to get really at them? If you get what I mean? And I'll go with you, Jamie.
Yeah, I'd have loved to have played. I said this on the way. I said this on the tube home to a few of the fans. We were chatting. I just said would have been lovely to play them, wouldn't it, with a full squad and no injuries, no cup ties. You just think we'd have more than matched them. And to put out that team, you could tell we were struggling. It was a kind of miracle some of those players played. I think really, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't expect Newell will be. Do you think Newell will be all right for Tuesday? I mean, he looked absolutely shot, didn't he, by the end? I just think it was a game too far for a lot of them, and Tuesday might be as well. So it's got to kind of regroup this week, haven't we, and just see what we can get. But as we've said, Harry and Potter have done great coming in. Let's have faith in the fringe players and give them a chance because and Jack in goal. They've all shown their worth. They deserve a chance. So So maybe we don't need to rely on the more senior players too much, and and it could be an opportunity for these young players to kind of establish themselves at the end of the season, and get in the first team for next year, so they'll have a motivation as well. So no, I think it was a step too far for some of them players really at that game, but yeah, let's regroup and go again.
Yeah, and yeah, just same to you, Mark. Really, I did think when the game, like after the game, what could he have done if he'd had like, just a Zanzala to come on and or especially a Jolly, because I think on the right we probably did struggle a bit. I don't think that's probably Jack's position, is it really? He wants to be more central, but obviously with Matty Mac and Nazeless, yeah, I think they only had like Matty's been struggling with injuries, hasn't he, for probably since Christmas, isn't he? And Jack's been had a couple of injuries since he came back, isn't it? Do you think obviously if we'd had them players fully fit and a couple of players that were injured available, do you think we would have been able to like go more at Wealdstone in that game really?
Yeah, probably. I think you're right. I think neither Matty Mac or Jack were fit. I think we got the absolute maximum out of both of them. Don't forget Harvey Gregson. I think in that type of game would have made a difference. No disrespect to anybody that played like centre mid. I think Lee Whelan's been immense. I sort of think that the major positive for me this season has been more the guys coming from the like academy, if you like. So Harry Hubie, James Potter, and the major disappointment for me this year has been the majority of the forward players we've got in on loan, who I think have been, to be honest, have been poor. Sanzala, the best, I think, pick out of it. What I think, in my opinion, has a bad bunch, to be honest. And that I think that's where, looking back over the whole season, I think that's where we've struggled a little bit. George has been asked to play, more games than his body is able to. George Newell has got. I've said this before on the pod. Goals per game ratio is as good as anybody. He just doesn't play enough games. His body can't physically take a lot of games, and I think we've known that when we've signed him. And we I think we've just fallen short sometimes up front centrally.
Yeah, yeah. And same question really, you two, Chris, do you think like obviously like I just said, the two the injuries, the cup tie players, do you think obviously listen, the players gave everything, so we've got total respect for them and we're gutted for them. But do you think like if them players were available, then we could have gone a bit more toe to toe with Wealdstone instead of like having to play the obviously way we did in the end.
Yeah, so if you've got Charlie Jolly available, or even going back, if you've got Ash Hunter fit to play, I think we caused them a lot more problems going forward. But we had what we had. Jack and Matty, they've strapped themselves up and give us everything they've got. And they're two of our best players, so they've done more than we could ask of them, really. The only thing I think really is George Newell could barely walk when he went off. I think we could have got Potter on a bit earlier and maybe stretched their tired defence's legs, maybe had some luck. But we worked at what we've got, and credit to every single one of them. They gave us what they've got. I suppose the only good thing now going forward is we've got those cup tie players available. We've got the new lad in midfield. We've got a couple of our injured players coming back. Maybe don't play them Tuesday, but save them for Friday. So we've got numbers. Maybe we're in a position where one or two lads are getting left out the squad on match days again. And on this run-in, most of our games are at home. I think there's only two real trips. That's Spennymoor and Darlow. So most of our games are at home. We're going to take a good crowd to Southport. We've got a real chance. We've got players back. Use Tuesday maybe to get it out their heads, and then let's go for it, because who knows what could happen if we get behind them.
Yeah, totally. Actually, I want to just point on actually their manager Gary Waddock, obviously very experienced. He thought he had some really nice words to say about Marine, didn't he? And I believe he went into the dressing room and basically give all the credit to the world to the players and then Bobby Gant. I think it's a class touch that, to be honest. It's a little consolation to us because obviously I don't think anything's going to make us feel any better after that. But I'll see what you all think about that. But what did you think when you obviously heard us interview and I went in the dressing room? Because Bobby Gant touched on it in his interview as well, didn't he, Jamie?
Yeah, it's a nice touch. It really is a nice touch. I mean, yeah, he's managed some big clubs. I remember him as a very decent player for QPR as well. He was a good player. Played Republic of Ireland many times. He's been there and done it. And so yeah, I think it's all credit to him. You don't need to do that. All your players are out on the pitch celebrating. All the fans are on the pitch. He probably wants to have a beer and enjoy it as well. But class act, yeah. Well, nice one, Gary.
Yeah, and same with you, Matt.
When football was football, wasn't it? Mutual respect. You battered each other on the pitch. You come off the pitch and had a pint together. Old school, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, go with you, Chris.
Yeah, exactly. The thing is, he doesn't have to do that. It's Wealdstone's biggest day in 30 years as well. They're all partying, but it's a proper football person. Marine's made an impact. He's felt he's needed to go over and just say his piece, and that's exactly what you want to hear. That's exactly what you want to hear from opposition managers. You don't want them rubbing it in, goading oppositions or anything like that. Proper football managers like Gary. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll wrap up now. This last question, and I'll wrap up because we've been on for over an hour now. But obviously, going into the future, obviously we're going. Hopefully, we can challenge the players. But before that, I want to touch on did it obviously the way he lost as well. Really felt sorry for people like Paul Levy and Dave Mack and obviously Tim who comes on as well, and Barry Lenton and many more. And Dave O'Brien, just a few to mention, because they've seen two semi-finals, and I was gutted for all them, to be honest, because it would have been brilliant to get to that Wembley, and it just feels like a kick in the wrong place, doesn't it? Because they've seen two ones. I feel terrible. I've only watched one, but I don't want to see another one after that, to be honest. But to see three, I was absolutely gutted for them. But going forward, obviously the end of the season, how important is it, how important is it going to be to keep this group together? There's going. I'd imagine there's going to be some admirers for Bobby Grant as well. How tough's that going to be to keep him? And is it going to be key that he stays? Because obviously, when you look at the likes of Finn Sinclair Smith, there was a rumour wasn't going around that Max Shield was trying to sign him 2 days before we played against Wealdstone. I think the Thursday was the deadline. Are you worried about losing Bobby Gant and losing key players like Finn, and stuff like that? Go with you, Jamie.
Yeah, I just want to echo what you said about the committee, and although I saw Dave Mack at the end and he looked inconsolable, and I was trying to G him up and say, but he was having none of it. He just looked like his world had fallen in. So we were all in the pub, weren't we, beforehand, and the chair, James is in there having a drink with us. I just thought, what a lovely thing this is. All the committee are there on the terrace with us, the guys who run this club, and you can see what it means to them. As you said earlier, we're not a team that, someone has a club that someone we don't know has come in and started running. These are guys we know, guys who are supporters, and they were feeling it more, probably, as much as us, if not more. And it was heartbreaking to see. And they've helped put us in this position where we are challenging for trips to Wembley. They've been brilliant the way they've run the club in the last few years. So, well done to them. Well done to them. Yeah, it's inevitable, isn't it? A non-league, I think, if you get a bit of success, you're going to turn heads, aren't you? And I'm sure Bobby will have admirers. I know he lives locally, doesn't he? He's still on his first season in this job. You'd think, unless he gets a really good offer, he'd stay. I think he's well loved by the supporters. He surely sees Marine's a team on the up, and this is a good place for him if he does want to go into management professionally and seriously. This is going to be a great trade, I think. And also, Finn, what's he played for us? 150 games. We've been lucky, really, to have that long.
Yeah.
He's clearly. I mean, every time I bring someone to Marine or they watch Marine, they're like, "Who's that guy? Why is he playing for you?" They rave about him. I mean, I know people often say about his stature. Maybe that's been against him playing at a higher level, I suppose. But he does put in the performances and he scores the goals, and we've been lucky to have him. I'm sure
Yeah.
there'll be turnaround. There always is at non-league, but we've been lucky to have quite a few players who've played a few seasons for us now.
Yeah.
We've built a good team. I think James Leary alluded to that, didn't he, on his
Yeah.
comments on social media.
Yeah.
So you hope some of them stay, and you hope we can meet their demands if they have them, and keep the squad together with a few. I think I agree with Mark. We definitely need to think about. We don't score enough goals. We need someone up front. Um, but yeah, it'll be sad, but it's inevitable. It's inevitable in non-league, isn't it? Quite often you come back in August and there's 11 new players on the pitch.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we've been lucky the last few seasons, really. But let's hope that luck continues.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, and I think the way I think as well is that because Marina, like, anyone who does well in Marina, especially at this level, they're gonna get attention, isn't it? And if they're doing well, and the money that's in this league's crazy as well. That's what we can't compete with it. You know what I mean? If we talk about like Finn, for instance, he's near 25 now. Is he gonna feel like with our ground situation, we can't actually really go up until we move grounds, can we? So he's going to feel like if someone like Maxfield comes in, that is the right time to go and obviously, further his career, which I don't think anyone would begrudge him, do you know what I mean? But, with Bobby Grant, his stock's so high now, isn't it, really? But I hope he does. I hope Bobby does stay. Do you know what I mean? I really do think he will get Marvis though, and because what he's done this season is brilliant. I mean, go you, Mark. You worried about like and Marvis for Bobby and players and stuff like that.
I think the massive thing will be whether we get in the playoffs, and if by any, all the planets align and we get anywhere near going up, that'll make a complete difference. If we don't, and we stay where we are, I think it'll be a real summer of building on what we've got. I can't see a lot going out, including the manager. And I can only see two or three maybe coming in, maybe a little bit more for squad wise. But I think most people will stay. I honestly do, which is completely against non-league. It really is. But I think they will because I think there's something going on. There's something special building. They believe in the manager. The manager staying is a massive, massive thing.
Yeah, okay.
And I think if he does, I think we won't be looking at that many coming in. Definitely forwards. I think definitely central forwards. Not that I don't believe in George. As I said before, his goals per game ratio is amazing. He's just not fit to play a 40, 50 game season. And that's no disrespect to him. If his body's not up to it, it's not up to it. Do you know what I mean? But you take 20 or 30 games from George and he'll do what he does, which is amazing. But we need, I think, central forwards. I think it's a real positive time. It's a real positive time. And let's just see, keep riding this wave that sort of, it is an up and down wave. We've had lows even this season, we've had a couple of stuffings, big time, but the majority is amazing. Again, go back to the committee and everything that's going on. The club all round is in good hands. We've got good people looking after the club in all ways. The actual club itself, the club, bar, restaurant, whatever, seems to be in good hands now. That seems to be like a real good, venue for people to go to. They've upped the game. Social media, we've upped our game. The team is in a good place with the committee are, doing their utmost to try and keep us going. James Leary is a cracking fella, really, really good. His dad is amazing. They're all good people with Marina heart. They don't get everything right, but they're they're getting better at putting their hands up when they don't get things right and acknowledging it quite early. You know, I just think, and then the club is in good hands because the fans are amazing. That on Saturday was amazing. Not to rise to any of the rubbish that was going on the pitch after the game, and just support the team, support the club, and be together is amazing.
Yeah, and just what Matt touched on, we'll finish now. But you know, we know that a lot of these players re-signed when Bobby was manager. When Bobby got the job, I know. I got told that all the players wanted Bobby to get the job. Do you think that's key, Chris, to keeping most of these players? Is keeping Bobby first and foremost, and then if we keep him, then the players will more than likely stay because of Bobby in himself.
Yeah, completely. I agree with Mark on that. If we keep hold of Bobby, I think he's built a tight knit group there that want to play together. They want to succeed together. So I think if there's a couple of lads in there you've been able to see all season that they're above this level. You know, so they're probably going to get looked at by some National League clubs, maybe even some Football League clubs coming in for them. But I think for the most part, we're going to keep 80-90% of that team, and then it's just finding the key pieces to build on that. But I don't see why. I mean, you talk about Finn going to Macclesfield. I'd be a little bit disappointed if he went to a team like Macclesfield. While they're obviously a bigger club than Marine, I don't think they're in that much of a better position to succeed than Marine. So I would be a little bit disappointed there, because I do feel like we're really building something here right now. From the committee down to the management team, the players, the fans, it feels like we're all together and moving forward. And that's a rare feeling. There's no complaints. There's no dissenting views. We're all on the same page. You know, sometimes hashtags and slogans are forced, but the We Are Marine, it really feels right at the moment at this club.
Yeah, it's top man. Yeah, I just want to obviously thank all for coming on. It was really good. It was really good to speak about it. Congratulations to Wealdstone with gritted teeth. I'm off to go and cry now until tomorrow's game. But no, congratulations to them. Listen, they won the game, and you know they've been great. And as I said, it's guttering. But if that was us scoring last minute, we'd have been on the pitch ourselves, wouldn't we? Let's be honest about it. So
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So just as I said, and I just if you can go on Tuesday tomorrow, Files, and especially on Friday at Southport, and let's give these lads a real lift, because obviously they'll be really on the floor at the moment, and then players need a lift, and I've got no doubt we'll do that. But yeah, just thanks very much for joining me, gentlemen.
No problem. Good
Cheers,
luck.
Marky.
Cheers, thank you.
Jamie, Mark, thank you.
Thanks, guys.